Very good. Great, good evening. It's 6:30. We have a quorum. We'll call a planning board meeting to order. Those in attendance for the planning board are Joe Zagrodnik, myself, Jim Maximowski, Kishore Parmar, and Bill Dwyer, and I don't see Mark yet. So there's the four of us. First order of business is general information. I'd like to welcome Kishore Parmar as our newest member who has just been elected last week. Congratulations.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Dwyer, general information.
Hang on, let's do the reorganizing the board.
Right.
I'm just doing a quick check to see if I have heard anything,
From Mark.
and I have not, from Mark. So let me get back to Zoom. So the first item is to reorganize the board. So it's a combination of selecting a chair, clerk, and planning board representatives to a few boards, the CPA committee, the 40R study committee. I think that's about it.
Right.
Or do we do you, Jim, as or do we nominate a representative to the bylaw study committee?
No, because I think the select board chose, that was a volunteer one. I mean, you could make it if you want. We could do that just to make it official. Let's do the board first. We'll do the other committees. Do I hear a motion for?
I nominate James Maximowski as chair.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. Any discussions? If not, roll call vote. All in favor?
Dwyer, aye.
Jim Maximowski, aye. Kishore, you're next. We go in alphabetical order.
Yeah, sure. Aye.
Joe Zagrodnik, aye.
Motion passes, excuse me, 4-0 with one absent. Next is for nominating clerk. I will nominate Bill Dwyer as clerk.
I will second it.
The motion and second. All in favor of that? Any discussions? All in favor? Roll call vote.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximowski, aye.
Parmar, aye.
Zagrodnik, aye.
Motion passes 4-0, one absent. That's it for the board. You've got a list of the other committees, Bill. You want to make that?
Let me see if I have it handy. And I should. Actions. Respondents. It's called the officer's letter. So the three, yeah, let me share the screen. Get that up. Okay, so the three positions that we appoint are Pioneer Valley Planning Commission representative, Community Preservation Act representative, and Economic Development and Housing Committee representative. And to that, we should add the 40R.
Right.
And we did, for the 40R, we did have both Mark and Mike on. I know Kishore is attending those meetings, but we could nominate him as a planning board representative too.
Yep.
And I see that Mark has joined us.
I
Okay,
would support that. You know, Kishore's already putting the time in. Might as well be another planning board rep instead of just at large.
do we need to nominate ourselves for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, Bill?
No, that appointment is the select boards.
Okay. Okay, I will make a motion to appoint Mr. Dwyer as a as the primary for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, Mark Dunn to the Community Preservation Act, the Economic Development and Housing Committee, Mr. Dwyer, and for the 40R Study Committee, Mr. Dunn and Mr. Parmar.
Okay. I'll second those.
Do we need a alternate for PVPC?
I was going to ask that myself. I think
If we do want an alternate, that is a select board appointment,
Okay.
okay,
not a planning board appointment. So, for instance, when you were serving as the alternate, Mark, you were appointed to that by the select board.
Okay.
So,
If Randy says it's so, it's so.
So what we could make a recommend, yeah, well, see, that's the last sentence. We also recommend the select board appoint Mark Dunn as PVPC. I would suspect we may want to keep it that way. I believe Kishore would have a potential conflict as a PVPC commissioner. So it might be better just to avoid that.
okay.
Well, it's no secret.
Yeah, my wife works for PVPC, so.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Anyways, we have a motion and a okay, we'll add recommending the alternate of Mark Dunn to the PVPC to the Board of Selectmen. That's a minor thing. But we have a motion and a second. Any
Second.
discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing none. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Dunn, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Exomaski, aye.
Parmar, aye.
Zagradnik, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Very good, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
CPA,
See, that was an included CPA.
okay.
I was late getting connected. Did I miss any previous business?
We just,
We were only gonna appoint you chairman, but you weren't here, so,
we just reorganized the board with the chairman, the chairperson and the clerk. That's all. Same as before. The last several years.
As long as
Mr. Dwyer,
So the only walk-in is Braden Gavigan.
it was muted, it looks like.
open now. Yes, sir, you're up.
Yes, thank you. Actually, yeah, it's somehow I'm not sure how, but my son is Braden Gavigan, and his name shows up every time I'm on these Zoom calls. I have to figure out how to change that. But it's Bill Gavigan with Poynt Signs. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, gentlemen. So yeah, I guess we are here to review our sign package. I'm not quite sure the process with the board. Do I just kind of take the screen and run through the package itself?
Yeah, could you just identify the property address, please?
Yeah, of course, of course. Property is 331 Russell Street in Hadley. It's the Dunkin' Donuts. They're going through a rebrand, have a remodel coming up, and part of the major rebrand, the national rebrand right now with Dunkin' is the donuts is gone, and now everything is Dunkin'. Color scheme used to be brown, now it's more of different gray tones, and obviously updating the signage is part of that that remodel process. So
Okay, so you should be able to share your screen now.
wonderful. Thank you. All right. So this is essentially our package here. Sorry, I'll switch over here. So basically just a site plan layout of everything that we're doing on the site or proposing to be doing. Currently, there's one sign on the front of the building, a box sign. Part of the new look is more individual letters. Really, it's a little bit more of a costly approach for the franchisees, but part of the branding, it's modernizing the look and it's a little bit better sign package than what they used to have with the boxes and the faces. So now we're proposing individual Dunkin' Channel letters, also a cup on the side here, also a channel letter. These two signs here are internally illuminated channel letters. And then on the side elevation here, what we call the Elrod location runs on Dunkin'. It's kind of a way to just brand each store to the community. I'm sure you see Patriots run on Dunkin', everybody runs on Dunkin'. So this is a way to they have a similar sign inside the stores, but then on the outside, this is part of the new next gen branding to have Hadley runs on Dunkin' as part of the branding on the exterior as well. So to kind of run through these, we've got the Dunkin' letters on the front, that cup icon on the side, facing down the street, and then that Hadley before you come to the drive-through window. Also on that same elevation, we've got a illuminated directional sign that's existing there now. What's existing, what's proposed. Pylon sign, very similar. We're just refacing, changing out the old one. Anything brown, we paint to gray. Give that a little facelift there. Then in the back, this is considered our order point canopy, our drive-through canopy. Basically, cars come up, they drive underneath this. The speaker and microphone are right here. The menu board is off to the side. They'll come up, they'll place their order, protected. It's lit and obviously covered, protecting from the weather. Then our digital menu board would be just after that to the right at a small angle, facing the cars as they're sitting at the speaker. And then before those items, also on that back right corner, we've got a height detector, really just kind of meant to protect the canopy and then the overhang above the drive-through window. Again, this is the new image for the next gen look. And then just a couple of anchor bolts. That's pretty much the whole package, gentlemen.
Do you have a
What-
picture of the existing sign on the front of the building?
I actually do, if I can pull this over here to be viewed, because I was just looking at it. So this is the storefront right now. So that's kind of
I'm
a
still
look of everything.
seeing the
And then
plans.
that one sign there, and then we can come down here a little bit and,
We don't see the storefront existing.
Yeah,
Oh.
all we're seeing is your aerial map.
oh. Thought I pulled this over to the right screen. Maybe not. Can you guys see that?
No,
No,
We're still seeing permit, print, Duncan, Adobe PDF.
Yeah. But I can pull this over to that screen and
You
you're
might
not
need
seeing
to,
it.
sometimes you need to unshare and reshare to
Yeah,
get
yeah, thank you.
the other window.
Try that one.
That's about the only tech thing I know.
Oh, good enough. It's about the same as I've got. You guys see it now?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. So this is that corner view again. What's existing, this one sign in the front here. We did survey it. You're looking at about 42 square feet on that sign. We're proposing between the three, again, the smaller the channel letters don't have the dead space of the white background and all of that. They're just individual letters. So total between those three individual letters, we're going from 42 existing to just under that 40.39 square feet between the three signs that we're proposing.
Okay. And the existing sign is internally illuminated, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So you're basically just refacing what's there?
No, we're going to be removing this cabinet and then replacing it with those Duncan channel letters across the top, and then that's the main one replacing that one. So I think we're going from on that 42 square feet to, I don't know, somewhere around 20. I do have that on that other screen. But yeah, the illuminated Duncan letters would technically replace this in that spot. They built a little tower and it sits at the top of the tower. That's kind of the new look for Duncan. And then again on the side here, we'd have that little cup, and then down below, try to get a little bit better view. Over here is where we would have Hadley Runs on Duncan,
And how
which
big
is really more or less the guest
Now-
experience through the drive-through. It's something that they're looking at really more than anybody else.
Are those illuminated or not illuminated?
No, these down here are externally illuminated on that accent wall. The Hadley Runs on Duncan. Those are 3/4 inch cut PVC painted letters on that accent wall, and it's got little not even goosenecks, but little bullet lights that are up top and shine down to it. But the cup over here is proposed to be internally illuminated, again, a channel letter. And then the Duncan letters on the front here also internally illuminated.
The amount of signs you have in the square footage is fine, but we would probably be exceeding our authority to allow you to have the cup on the side internally illuminated. Because the town has been quite steadfast in not allowing any new internally illuminated signs.
Right. No, and I was aware of that, and I knew that this was part of that process, was being able to speak to the board about it. Jim, if I could ask, does that mean the front Duncan channel letters, those could be internally because they'd be replacing that cabinet?
Yes,
So we'd be looking more at that side cup. Those two signs on the side would have to have external lighting.
correct. The sign on the front that you're replacing with you call it the letters, you're replacing a sign there with another internal illuminated sign, relatively the same size, and that's fine. And the tree line sign is already internally illuminated. That's just a refacing, re-signing, whatever you want to call it. That's internal. That is okay. But adding on the side is the one you'd have to go to external.
Fair enough. Thank you. And I, quite honestly, I expected that. I was hoping we would get the front Duncan letters. So thank you for being amendable to that.
So the menu boards are basically just one direct replacements.
Yeah, they're it's actually about half the size of the existing ones. The new digital ones. Obviously the one that's there now is internally illuminated, but it is a static menu board, which, basically all of them were before, until technology has caught up to make them efficient enough in the outdoors in the Northeast. They've been able to do it down south for years, but the weather up here is a different beast. So yeah, it's about half the size and square footage. But it is going to be proposing to be changed from what we consider static, internally illuminated, to the digital menu board, which, quite honestly, I mean, I don't know if you gentlemen go through enough Dunkin' drive-throughs, but those old static boards, and it is the new image and the new brand it's part of their operational, I guess, plan as to how they run. Everything is kind of integrated into these digital menu boards that they use, and how everything gets timed through the drive-through to speed everything up. But they are now, compared to how they used to be. I meet a lot about the digital menu board, specifically with towns, obviously with concerns on those, and I fully understand that. I know a lot of regulations tend to lump them in with digital signs, like an electronic message center, which would be out on the pylon, advertising, things like that. These are essentially and again, not sure how familiar you are with them. The old ones have the fluorescent lights behind them, the grids, the panels. They change everything out all the time. The paneling breaks, they fall, they look all disheveled once they're around, like a lot of these for 10, 20, 30 years, like they have. The digital ones, they're screens, they're Samsung screens. They self-adjust to the ambient light. They're brighter during the day. They will adjust at night to go down. They can actually be manually adjusted as well. The boards don't move at all. They strictly hold the menu at the bottom right corner. It calls out your order. They're on order confirmation in the corner as you're calling it out. And then at the end, they just ask you if it's correct. So you can see it. So you're making sure that they're capturing your order correctly. Other than that, everything on the board is completely static. The light, like I said, is regulated and actually self-adjusts anyway. And nothing about it is moving. It's completely static.
Will
And
that
I
still,
think those are kind of some of the main points the
will
town's
that
done.
remain, the menu sign remain on the back of the building as it is now?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Just a point of clarification, I see your address in the upper right, left side says 333, Russell. You said 331, which is correct?
You might say 333 because he moved.
Yeah, I
his-
think that's what it is. Yeah.
He moved his vantage point.
Yeah. I was told it was 331. That's what I've got on all my paperwork. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that's what it is. Yep.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure, because when I put the waiver out, I just want to make sure I get the right address, that's all.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
And how would the cup be illuminated on the east fascia?
Quite honestly, we could do it really two different ways. I think the way that they would do it, just for uniformity, that those side, that Hadley runs on Duncan sign on that accent wall, that uses those little bullet lights, just has an arm that comes out and another one that shines back to it. They're very small. And if you can imagine, kind of shaped like a bullet, that's why they call it bullet lights.
So
Probably
there's
put one or two above that, shining back down, so it would match the other. I would think is how the architect
those
of the
are-
franchisee.
and Bill, those are shielded or
Yes, they are. Yep,
so that their cone of the throw of their light is only on the building.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly the intent of them. They are completely shielded.
Okay.
Yeah, and the light is recessed in it. It's got a little angle to it to bring it back to the building. Honestly, it's a pretty perfectly shielded light fixture.
Now, can we go back to the front facade sign?
Yeah.
On the,
The proposed.
what is it gonna look like now?
Let me jump off of this again and jump back in, guys. Sorry about that. So this is essentially what you'd be looking at. They're gonna build these two towers, one over the drive-through again. It's kind of part of the new branding. Two towers there. Obviously no signage here. But on the front, these canopies here, they are an orange accent band, like an I-beam band. It's designed to have an I-beam look. They're orange. That's not captured here in the drawing, but that tower essentially, this is kind of what we're going to be looking at.
Okay, so that does create a problem.
Right.
Because we do have a provision in the sign bylaw about the signs not extending above the roof line.
Okay. That's not new at all. I think Enfield does the same thing, if I remember correctly. We could always drop the tower down to the roof line. You know, obviously contact the architect, things like that, but they can still build that. But and they might even be able to build it up above the roof line. You know what I mean? Like have this come up to here, but not have the letter go past this. Or they might still want the tower there, and they might make this white beam more in the middle, put the colored, because this is a magenta and a white paneling over it's a hardy plank siding, like a hardy plank. It looks like a wood tone. So this in between is a wood tone, and then a white and pink, what they call tamalin. It's like I think they're 1.5 inch strips. of different colors. So what they might drop this white down in between and then put the paneling above and below. And I'm not quite sure what the architect might want to come up with. You might want to provide some direction if you have any thoughts there. But there are a couple different ways to get these letters so they do not pass that roof line.
Okay.
Are we gonna wait for the new design or are we gonna approve it with modifications?
I think we should wait because there's so many little things that could be that he wants to change. I mean, coming back in 2 weeks is probably not gonna be a big impedance to them. I just don't want to improve, I don't want to approve something that change this, then tell them what to do. And then they're gonna come back to us in 2 weeks and say, well, we'd like to do this instead, because your idea may not work. So let them make their sign comply at their discretion. They know what we want, as opposed to saying this is what it should look like, because we're not designers. Let them design something that looks nice and meets their requirements, as opposed to telling them what to do.
Good point, Jim. Thank you.
Did I just check your methodology? You said you measured the letters. Does that include did that incorporate measuring the area of the smallest rectangle that will incorporate all of the letters? Or were you just measuring the actual surface of the letters?
Yeah, I'm just measuring the letters. This is not, Bill, I completely understand. A lot of times these go on a backer panel, whether it's for aesthetics or for access. When we put it on a backer, yes, the backer panel is part of the square footage. Quite honestly, we try to avoid that because of that reason. Depending on the scenario, this really isn't one of them. But this whole white background, that is more of the image. That's siding. You know, that's the background of the wall fascia. It's just how they design it. And these letters would be on our end to us, individual channel letters on a wall, the same up
Okay.
here as if it was down here or anywhere else.
Right, I understand that, and that's fine. I'm not asking you measure the white area, but I just want to be sure you are measuring
You,
this.
Total height and width?
The air, yeah,
One of
height,
your-
height by width.
Always. Always, yes, sir.
one of your signs had dimensions on it.
Yep, I'm going right here, right now. Yep.
Could you,
So,
can't see it.
Yeah.
Make it-
Yes, I can.
Oh,
So it's
can't see?
9'5". What is that?
9.5 by 1.9.
So
Oh,
that would be the area that you are asking for,
Yeah.
not the actual surface of the raised letters. So
correct, but I
that would
am
be
actually right now
calculating.
questioning the square footage on that.
Okay.
So
And I also want to raise one other point so you don't come back and get turned away again.
Yeah.
When we say, as I understand from past applicants, when we say the signage cannot be above the roof line, it is the roof line, not the parapet. So if you have, let's say, an 18
correct.
parapet,
Yep.
which is hiding your mechanicals on the roof, it is the roof line.
Oh, okay.
And I guess because the existing sign is within the parapet dimensions, I guess we could discuss whether or not it's the same location as the existing sign.
Right, right.
But typically, because that high wall in the front is basically a parapet hiding the mechanicals, if you were a new building, we would be very much telling you that you're going to be within the roof line, not the parapet line. But seeing that your existing sign is within the parapet height, that's, I guess, if the planning board has a comment on that, we could say that that's within the same location as the existing sign.
Yeah, I would think he could be, if the height of the current sign is not above or is not below the actual roof line, they could match that. Isn't that what I think we're leaning towards?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
And if I could actually, gentlemen, if I could just point out one other thing here, and again, I may be wrong. I have not personally visited the site and I can't get behind it on Google. That's usually where you can see that. But looking at this condenser, air conditioning unit, whatever we have on the roof here, and looking at the mansard roof here to the side, I don't know that there is much of a parapet here. Again, I could be wrong. The mansards usually are fairly flat. We don't necessarily, and normally I can't see that much. I don't think there's a whole lot of parapet there. Again, I might be wrong. And I can certainly look into that.
Your architect should know that.
Bottom
Yep.
line is, if you keep the sign not above the existing front wall height, if you would have, whatever we call it, you know, mansard, parapet, whatever it is, then you should be fine, because that's where the existing sign is, and you would be no more non-conforming than the existing sign. So we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so basically we're saying don't go past this
We
this
can't,
roof line, the existing
you're
roof
not
line.
sharing.
Yeah, well, you.
Oh, I'm
closed
sorry.
the
I apologize. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I was talking about it before. I thought you guys were seeing it. I'm sorry. So yeah, this is kind of what I meant by being able to see that. It looks like it's a little too high to be
No, no.
recessed behind a parapet. But so I'm sorry. So for clarification, we can come to the roof line or come to where the top of the sign is now.
To the top of the box, I think.
Yeah, to that line that you just pointed out first.
To the top of the box.
Yes.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
I know we're kind of splitting hairs here, but you know, we're just trying to be consistent across on what we tell other businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah, and quite honestly, gentlemen, you know, best direction you can give me so I can put the right package together. You know, it's really whatever you're looking for, we want to achieve. So thank
You
you.
don't have that box height, do you? The top.
I
height,
do.
huh?
The height of it is 50. Oh, above grade?
Yeah.
No, that I don't know.
Gee,
Sure, I could find out, but I don't know offhand.
I know this is probably not part of your sign business, but the no left turn coming out of the drive-up window is gone.
I think
No.
that's probably Mass Highways doing.
The state took all those signs out.
Yeah, and all that landscaping along the road is gone too.
That's not you, that's the state doing all that.
Well,
Right.
I'm surprised they removed something like that.
it was
Well, when
gone.
they widened the road,
They widened the road.
they moved everything back so many feet, and all the signs that used to be no left turn, no right turn, no turn out one way, etc., they were all removed.
Wow.
And they're gonna be, of course, when they put the center suicide lane in, you'll be able to make all kinds of left turns everywhere.
You guys have other problems on your hands.
So,
Well, there's a plug for Belanger's Heating and Plumbing.
So we meet the first and third Tuesdays of the month, and we set aside this portion of the meeting for things like this. So whenever you're ready, just come back in.
Absolutely. Well, we'll hopefully see you in 2 weeks.
And we ask that if you have drawings or anything to submit, that you get them in by the Friday before that.
Absolutely.
We're a volunteer board, so weekends are when we get to review the submissions.
I will try to have something for you, quite honestly, by the end of this week, if not, certainly beginning of next week.
okay,
Thank you, sir.
All right. Appreciate your time.
good, see you then, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Okay. We have nobody else
So-
for general information, so we will continue the hearing. I'm assuming, Randy, you're here for Car Properties?
No,
No. He's here for
H&M, the 132 Russell Street.
the
Oh, I'm sorry,
HPP.
no, I'm sorry, looking at the wrong number, yes, that's,
Yeah, so, yeah, I just copied the notice from the prior agenda, even though we did correct it, that Car Properties is not the applicant, they're the property owner.
okay.
But So Seven Brew we were expecting them. We continued it to tonight. I haven't heard anything from them. I don't know if Kayla has heard anything.
We recently had, we opened the hearing for the conservation application that they submitted, and we continued that because it was incomplete and we needed more information. So they're going back, and we continued them for July.
Okay,
They might have some new materials coming in the next few weeks.
so should we continue them to the 17th or we'll put them on the 17th. If they don't show, we can move it till July.
Okay, I'll make a I'll make a motion to continue it to, well, we do have PVPC on the 17th.
Okay, you're right.
So, yeah. And if we have PVPC on the 17th, we will probably not want to have PVPC back again July 1st. So we
Right.
can use July 1st for a hearing date.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, when are they up for conservation? That's the end of, June?
July, I thought.
The agenda for July 8th.
Oh. So if we move them to July, we won't necessarily have anything new from the Conservation Commission, will we?
It's worth waiting till the 15th if you have availability on that agenda.
Or is that gonna be PVPC again?
Um,
Well, we haven't settled with what we're going to do with PVPC at the moment, so presumably we can give them some guidance on the on the 17th, and then if we don't meet again, think meeting schedules get spotty over the summer sometime. So, so I'm sorry, Kayla, when is Seven Brew coming back to see conservation?
Going back to conservation on July 8th.
July 8th. Okay,
Yeah.
So the 15th would be after that.
so yeah, so let's do July 15th. I'll make a motion to continue Seven Brew to July 15th.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? None? All in favor? Roll call.
Done, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximovsky, aye.
I.
Veronica, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Right. With that, just for everybody's information, Mr. Parmar has been sworn in. Mr. Zagrodnik was unable to get sworn in because the appropriate necessary people weren't there. So we'll leave it at that. And because he hasn't been sworn in, Mr. Zagrodnik can't vote on the property, on this item tonight, for the public hearing for the special permit. However, because Mr. Parmar is a new member, Mr. Iser has the choice of either continuing to another meeting or basically giving a brief overview from square one on the 132 Russell Street used car license. Your choice, Mr. Iser.
I'm going to choose to start all over again. It's a simple project, so it won't take me very long.
Okay. Mhm.
As long as Mr. Dwyer has something he can share for me, we'll be up.
Yep,
Did you get what I sent this afternoon, Bill?
I did.
Okay, perfect. It's just some slight revisions and a sign rendering.
Okay, let me just see if I can find where I had it.
I sent it to you personally and to planning.
I even opened it.
Around
And
5:54.
so I'd be queued up. Let me see if this is, hang on a second. Is that up
There
now?
it is.
Okay,
And that's the new one even. There's that and there's another one. We'll take this one first, and then the second one I sent you was the sign rendering.
oh, okay.
Okay? So, this is 132 Russell Street. Property is zoned business. I'm here to discuss a used car or Class 2 license, which is an allowed use in the district. Question came up previously about how many car dealerships you can have in a given proximity on Route 9. That bylaw is relative to Class 1 dealerships, the big ones like Steve Lewis Subaru and Country Nissan. It does not pertain to Class 2 licenses. So the applicant is Mike Filkowski. His parents own this property. Again, used car license. He's wants to have space for 10 cars. The parking requirements for used cars are 75 square feet per car. I show 5 spaces facing Route 9, 5 spaces facing Gough Street. They're bigger than 75 square feet each. I spell out what we need for parking for the cars. On the plan, we cannot park within 50 feet of the front property line. So both streets, the parking is 50 feet off the property lines. There is a need for an office, which is going to be in an existing space that is labeled barn. There's a note below that. It says proposed office space, 340 square feet. We need 680 feet of parking to satisfy the 2-for-1. The existing parking shown in front of the barn adjacent to Gough Street is 908. So that complies. The house is going to remain a house, and the garage that's there is for the residential use parking. And finally, there will be a sign that is going to get attached to the front of the barn. I have a note there, proposed sign 4x8, 32 square feet, 64 square feet is the maximum allowed. I do have a sign rendering. We can look at that afterwards. And though the parking is proposed to be gravel, we are not in the aquifer, so we are not required to have blacktop or a impervious surface underneath the vehicles. And I think that's it as far as I can explain. Be happy to answer questions.
This is.
Is he gonna have 2 access points? On Gough Street and Russell Street?
No,
Or-
no access off of Russell Street, just off of Gough.
Now, the
Trying to take the
parking
trees
where-
down?
where the cars are displayed, there's trees there, correct, currently, is there not?
There is, that's maybe half of that space between the house and the western property line has some very large cedar type trees there. He is going to take the ones down on Route 9 and possibly take a few down up that western line. He does not want to take them all down because they own that property over there as well, and they want a buffer to stay.
Okay. I noticed there's quite a few new paved driveways on Gough Street. I'm assuming that's on their property?
I don't know which ones you're referring to, Jimmy. I mean, there's one that goes into the garage, and there's one that goes into the barn. I'm not aware of anything else. I haven't been by there in a while, so I can't answer your question.
Yeah, I believe there's some new paved driveways going on to the west, if you would. I believe it's their property, and I don't believe they've taken out driveway permits.
Okay. That, again, I don't know the answer to that.
So, what are you proposing for lighting here?
Nothing other than what's existing, Bill.
Office space and existing barn.
So there's that little L mark is going to be the office.
Okay.
The way the state, the RMV works, if you want to get a dealer plate, you have to have an office, you have to have a sign, and you do all this stuff, and then they'll come inspect you and hopefully tell you, yes, you can get your plate.
Okay. And so that existing parking would serve the office.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And this is another one of those situations where the parking is overkill. There's probably going to be one vehicle there for the office, possibly a customer. So maybe two cars there for the used car business. So there's going to be plenty of parking for that.
Google Maps is satellite view. I don't know how old it is. It's still showing grass to the west of the front house and to the west of the garage. Are you saying that's going to be turned to gravel?
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Okay.
So actually, how much is going to be gravelled?
Well, the places for the cars, and he didn't say anything about wanting to put in new driveways or anything. So he could probably just drive over his grass to get there.
So you're saying just the footprint of the display parking?
That's what I anticipate, yes.
Okay.
If that changes, certainly I'd have to come back and reconvene and talk about it again.
Okay.
And then just for Kishore's benefit, if this gets approved through the planning board, then you get site plan approval, then the client has to go to the select board to get his license. So we're just getting attempting to get site plan approval, and then again, the select board would be the ones to issue the license.
So your client's visualizing this as something like what you're doing, basically internet-based.
Yeah, for the most part. I think he really is trying to be able to buy vehicles for his excavation and pavement maintenance business.
Well, I'll say what I do have reservations about increasing commercialization in this stretch, which is in the village center overlay, but I also recognize it's zone business, and it's probably not a trying to preserve the residential quality of this stretch of Route 9, which has only a few houses left on it. I'm not sure that makes it anything but a theme park. So sort of it does appear to satisfy the zoning bylaw, which is all we can speak to, really.
So I try my best to make sure it's everything I bring to you satisfies the zoning bylaw. And just in case anybody's wondering, there's a little blue heavy line in the right front corner of the
Mhm.
property between the house and the street. And that was where I thought he wanted to put the sign, and then I moved it onto the barn and I forgot to take it out of there. So that's just a blob of nothingness.
Why would you put a blob of nothingness on a property, Randy?
Well, it's
Make
called
it more beautiful.
forgetfulness. No, I copied that and put it on the barn, and then I forgot to erase it. So
So it's not on the barn, it's at that blob
No, it's not.
line. It's at the line.
yeah, no, it will be on the barn. That's where he wants it.
Oh, you want it on the barn?
Yeah, not at the corner of the streets.
Okay.
That's where I thought it would. I originally thought that's where it would go, but he told me he wanted it on the barn.
So there's
So-
no roadside sign?
Correct.
Okay. Where's the external illumination, if any?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just gonna be a plywood sign, you know. Oh, and I suppose we ought to take a look at that, Bill, if you could, please.
Well, let's see if we can move over to there.
So that's the sign rendering.
Size of it?
4x8.
Okay.
Possibly it might be smaller, but we're gonna start with 4x8 and see what that's what it was designed for. But I was talking to him and it might look better smaller. But definitely not bigger than 4x8, possibly smaller.
It's what was it 130? No,
132, Russell.
132, Russell. Thank you. I don't know why I take notes. I know Kayla's taking extravagant notes.
Probably waiting, just so everybody will realize Mr. Dwyer is putting his motion together.
I thought we were observing a moment of silence for the trees.
Well, you're welcome to do that too, if you want. Um, Well, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the application under the site plan approval bylaw. And for business use in the, actually, I don't think it's a special permit to do anything in the village center overlay. Just
No,
making,
It's just a guideline.
yeah. So the project is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the site plan approval bylaw, not detrimental to the established or future character of the neighborhood. The intended uses are not prohibited by the bylaw and are permitted thereby. Work will be conducted with the site plan approval, plan of land. And that was last revised to 27/25.
No, there's a revised date below, Bill, today. At the bottom of that title block, if you scroll up, or maybe it was yesterday.
Oh,
Oh.
June 2nd.
Oh, June 2nd. To be revised yet again.
To take the blob off.
There were no waiver requests. Copies of the application have been circulated. Proposal satisfies the site plan review criteria. Following conditions, design features are considered to be an integral part of the approved design. Approval is for the use HP Realty used cars. Is that going to be the business name?
It's H&M Auto Sales. Signage approved as submitted.
Did you say there was going to be external illumination or no illumination on the barn sign?
I don't know. It's definitely not internal illumination. If it's illuminated, it'll be externally illuminated. But at this point, I don't think there's any talk of that. If that comes to fruition, would you like me to come back?
Maybe just as a point of information, I don't think we need to approve anything, as long as it's external,
Okay,
just to let us know what the decision finally is.
okay.
Externally
Will do.
illuminated, if at all.
Yes.
Well, I'll just say no new outdoor lighting. If you want to change that, go on back.
Okie dokie.
No storage trailers, shipping containers, temporary or permanent storage structures are permitted. This does not excuse the project from compliance with other provisions of the bylaw, including the Conservation Commission, Building Commissioner, Public Safety, DPW, Board of Health, Water Commissioners, state agencies. Any project changes directed by other boards must be approved by the planning board. And is there any intention of doing any repairs, car washing, detailing, or anything like that?
Not at this time.
Okay. Okay, so I will put that in as a condition.
No curb cuts.
Okay, so no vehicle repairs or washing or detailing. Okay. So that's the abbreviated version. Let me see if I've left anything out. Nope, we don't have any special permit issues here, so none of that will apply. Right, that's the motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Yes, second. Oh, go ahead, Kishore.
Who is that? Kishore?
Kishore, second.
Yeah.
Motion and second. Any comments or discussions beyond what
Well,
we have?
I think I align with Mr. Dwyer. It's not what I would have liked to see there, but it seems to be entirely within their right, so.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
aligned.
Hearing nothing else, roll call vote.
Done, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximovsky, aye.
Harmar, aye.
And Zagradnik abstain because he can't participate. Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. Very good, motion passes.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay,
I'm gonna
Thank
leave
you,
you now
Mr.
so I can go put some straps on my son-in-law's gas tank before it falls completely off.
okay.
Have a good night, guys.
Nate, thank you. Okay, next up, we'll talk about the Attorney General's decision. For those of you listening or watching or whatever the case may be, we received this morning a decision from the Attorney General on our article from the fall 2024 town meeting, amending the ADU bylaw. And just for kind of a comparison, the actual zone bylaw amending ADUs, section 26 is probably 2 pages long. The Attorney General's decision on our ADU bylaw commenting is 16 pages. So they approved the bylaw in its entirety with 2 minor or 3 minor changes. There were, although they incorrectly identified their sections according to what I saw in our, I don't have a copy of the fall town meeting warrant. So the section numbers may be a bit incorrect, but I will simply read what the section reads to let everybody know that that is what they said was not approved. Section 26.2.4 currently reads, ADUs shall comply with any and all dimensional requirements as may be applicable to single-family homes as contained in Table 4 of Section 4.2 of the zone bylaw. They struck out the words any and all and as may be applicable to single-family homes so that the new wording would read, ADUs shall comply with dimensional requirements as contained in Table 4 of Section 4.2 of this zone bylaw. And they struck out in its entirety, I'm going to call it 26.2.11, and the numbering, because they use a different numbering, might be somewhat different. So, but the section numbers is not really important. What was struck out was 1 additional off-street parking space must be available for use by the ADU tenants to avoid on-street parking. I'm not quite sure why they struck that because the ADU regulation says you can allow up to 1 parking space per ADU. So
I think that may have been because we didn't put in some language saying unless within half a mile of a transit stop.
It says more than 1 additional on-street or off-street parking space for protected use ADU if all portions of its lots are located outside half a mile radius of a transit station, or it goes on.
yeah, and because we don't have a transit station, but I mean, okay,
Well,
So-
the regulations define any place that people get on and off buses.
So a bus stop.
Stop.
So any of the bus stops along Route 9 apparently are transits facilities.
oh, so those actually would qualify because the original one was they specifically mentioned mass transit in the Boston area.
Right.
Yeah, as I understood from the training we had in Worcester on this, they said if there's like it doesn't even have to be a bus stop shelter, but if you have one of those posts that is a posted bus stop, that counts as a transit, but not like, I pull a cord, stop here. That's
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
because
so we
if that's the case, we have transit stops along Route 47 and along Route 9.
Right.
There's a bus that runs from the center of Hadley to South Hadley, 40 through 47 South. And I think there might be one running up through Sunderland or not, Bill?
No.
Okay, so just 47 South.
Just 47, and even then it comes off of the bridge, goes down Bay Road to join 47. I don't know if there's another one that shifts off to Hampshire College or not.
Ooh, I don't know. I know that this one, for whatever reason, there's a bus stop at the end of my street. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why, because,
Oh, yeah.
but maybe, I don't know. Anyway,
So
for the
we-
alligator farm asparagus.
we can probably look to amend that by saying you must have one space unless you're within a half mile of a PVTA.
yeah, and we can do that for
Transit
the
stop.
special town meeting in the fall.
Yeah.
The one that they struck out entirely, I'm gonna call it 26.2.15. A pre-existing non-conforming structure shall not be made more non-conforming by the conversion to an ADU. That is entirely struck out. I'm not quite sure why they would strike that out.
That means you couldn't convert a chicken coop or something like that because the state regulations require 2x6s as opposed to 2x4s. I'm just guessing.
I'm thinking maybe it's something to do with if there's already a house on a non-conforming lot, they should be able to at least have an internal ADU, if not a freestanding one.
Okay. Maybe they considered converting a non-conforming accessory dwelling to be more non-conforming if you made it into an ADU. Maybe that's where it's from. I don't know.
Although they also make some reference to getting a finding from the ZBA. So that's a little murky.
The one thing that they left in, some of the important ones they left in, which are all in the initial, but you got to comply with all building codes. That's a given. However, the town cannot require separate utility connections to the street. So if they can actually connect through, the way I read this is if they can connect to the sewer through the existing sewer system of the house, through the existing sewer septic system of the existing dwelling. These are provided you got a separate freestanding units. And the electricity and power, etc., can all be connected through the main dwelling. You can't require separate water, sewer, or electrical unless the local utility supplier requires it.
Right.
Even if it's the connection's one thing, what about the metering?
That would be up, I guess that would be off with the house somehow. You'd have to have the main feed coming in, and that's a good question. How would you, let's say you had a separate dwelling, but the power would have to go through the main dwelling. Would you have to put you have to put your own meter in, I'm guessing here. The 1 meter would regulate, I don't know how that would work, to be honest.
especially for water and, water metering for ADU.
But the way they're saying you cannot require separate utility connections to the street. Sewer,
How does it affect Title V now, Jim, where we started that this, but
5 is still in effect, so that's
so-
a question. Title V had its own set of regulations on that, when you read them, they're, holy smokes. They're
well,
confusing.
for example, they're saying you have to hook the sewer, the septic system into the existing house system, right?
I'm understanding this as you can connect it to the existing sewer system if it has capacity.
That's
But
the question.
But the public health will rule if you're gonna put, if it's gonna exceed it, then the public health will require them to have a separate or enlarge their system. That's my interpretation.
Well, I think that's a good interpretation because most houses, if you have a 3-bedroom house, will have probably, 1,500-gallon septic tank. But if you have 2 bedrooms, then your ADU, you're adding, that's quite a bit more capacity. So that 1,500-gallon would not conform. That means you'd have to put in a bigger one, a bigger tank.
Yeah, I asked that question at the training in Worcester with the woman from from Boston, and she didn't want to hear the question, and she gave me a very trite answer. She said, your Board of Health will still have the, we're not taking their power away. So they have to meet the Board of Health.
Bottom line, if you got a septic system, you need 10,000 square foot of lot for each bedroom. In a nutshell.
Hmm.
That's basic Title V. So if
So-
you've got smaller lots, you're limited to according bedrooms.
So I brought that up because it looks, it's very convoluted, but we're not allowed to, I think what they're saying is we're not allowed to adopt a zoning requirement concerning utilities, safety, and emergency access. A municipality may not require a separate utility connection, provided that a separate connection may be required by a municipal or regional utility, investor-owned utility, by state law, by a local, local. So it seems like we can't, and the zoning bylaw cannot deny, or cannot require separate utility connections. But as I read that, it would seem to imply that the DPW could.
Or the Board of Health, yeah.
Okay, and that would make sense.
Right.
Septic systems and sewer connections, utility connections are beyond zoning regulations, but they're within the authority
Right.
accordingly of the DPW or Board of Health.
And I know we've had a prior discussion with the Board of Health agent, who obviously the Title V was written sort of in isolation, and there are some requirements. I don't remember exactly what he said, that you may be able to share a septic tank if you connect to it separately. I think my understanding, and we would maybe take this up with him on Thursday, is that you can't daisy chain an ADU through the house to the septic. But you can run a pipe from the ADU to the septic tank alongside the house. So I don't know. Again, there are a lot of loose ends here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point. Zoning can't regulate these things, but other town authorities may be able to. Okay,
Now, Jim, I had one more question regarding setbacks, side yards, because that was a question before. Well, I remember reading something that the ADUs could be 5 feet from a side yard. Now they would have to comply, question mark, to our setback, side yard dimensions and all of the above.
I think there's some, so the pre-existing non-conforming structure, a municipality may not prohibit the development of an ADU in an existing structure. So, if you have a non-conforming lot, you probably can't necessarily put an ADU up, but you can, tweak it. Now, there was something, here's floodplain and aquifer protection. There'll be some people who want to put the ADU in what is FEMA floodplain.
Yeah,
Good luck with that.
good point, yes.
And there was one other thing that I found here that I thought was interesting. The dimensional, such as setbacks, lot coverage, open space, that are more restrictive than is required for the principal dwelling, or a single-family residential dwelling, or accessory structure in the zoning district in which the protected ADU is located. So we do allow accessory structures. We had that discussion a few weeks ago about whether an ADU is an accessory structure or not. This seems to say that it will be true. If you allow accessory structures 10 feet from the property line, you have to allow an ADU 10 feet from the property line.
Which I think we disagreed with because an accessory structure is not usually a dwelling with, that kind of occupancy and the noise that comes with it.
Exactly. We disagreed with it, but the regulation seems to trump that.
Hmm.
But that'll only affect the rear lot line. The side lines are the same for accessory or principal structures.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, we may not like it, but I don't think it's the end of the world if they have to be, if it's 15 foot from the side, it's got a 15-foot side yard, it's got to be 15-foot rear setback. I mean, we could sit here and argue for that one, but the question is it really worth going to the math for that one? Because everything else, a lot of things that we put in there are still there. The planning board still does have review authority of all ADUs. We have no approval authority per se, like a special permit, but we can be used as a clearinghouse to make sure that the accessory ADU complies with everything in the zone bylaw. And so that's a good thing.
And
It relieves quite a bit of burden on the building inspector having to review all of these and make sure everything is compliance for those items. So that's at least good.
to Keyshawn's point, you're not gonna build a separate little housing unit and connect it to the present house and have how are you gonna meter it, et cetera? It's gotta have its own utilities going in it.
There's a lot of things here that, somebody puts an ADU in. Are they gonna wanna be responsible for metering everything going to that accessory dwelling unit through their own meter?
I
And
know.
backcharging them somehow? I don't know. I have no clue. I can't comment on that. I'm just making a statement. Unless it's somehow built into the rental fee. I don't know.
Yeah, I would imagine if they want to, they could sub meter it but they would still have one meter to the street.
Yeah, my concern would be mostly it's more for DPW if there's a line break or something in that regards of isolating and figuring out where it's happening and getting to it. That would be my concern. Or if there's a giant usage spike of any residents because there is one and the ADU is not occupied.
So, I mean, there's some question there that we're gonna meet, Bill and I have a meeting Thursday with various other groups and boards in town to get some clarity on these things. So we'll keep you informed when we find out what's going on with certain things.
And another thing regarding the ability for the DPW to know where a water meter is in, let's say East Street Common, do we get an as-built plan for their water, where the water shutoffs are?
We don't know. We don't need one. We know where the shut-off is to East Street Commons.
But it doesn't seem logical that we do not know. Okay, but
When it's a private street, never to be accepted, it's a town road. East Street Common is like one big driveway. Town can shut the water off at the street. And it's up to the homeowners association if they have a problem to a building within East Street Commons to shut the water off to that structure.
It's like our hotel. Like we have a leak in a couple of rooms. We got to shut down, or we have a leak in our main. We have to shut down the full main from the road and then fix it ourselves.
Well, Keyshawn, yeah, I would trust you and your operation as well as some developers in town to do something like that. On the other hand, a homeowners association, if you've ever been involved in one, sometimes they can't get a legitimate vote to come out of the rain. It's not going to be so easy, and it may well, I don't know. It's just a thought. So,
I mean, you raise a question, Joe, that we don't have any answer to.
okay,
We can shut the street off and solve their problem right away. Unfortunately, if
I know.
number X has a problem, the rest of the property is also going to lose water. So yeah, I don't have an answer to that one.
So here's another outside factor. State law on rental housing requires that if the landlord wants to bill the tenant for usage, electricity, water, sewer, whatever, they have to have separate meters. And I'm not sure if sub-meters necessarily apply in that case,
Okay.
because they basically have to have theoretically, I guess they could have sub-meters and then the landlord bills the tenant additional rent for usage. But more likely than not, the landlord is going to want to say, here's the apartment, call Eversource to get your electricity, deal with the town for your water. And that's going to kind of decide how you want to treat your, I think people are seeing the accessory apartment as the ADU as a moneymaker. Just put it in and rent to students or rent to families or rent to anyone. But there are going to be a lot of nuances.
There's a lot of unanswered questions with this stuff. And we can guarantee you we're not going to get answers to everything on Thursday, but
do they address trailers?
Trailers are not permitted in the town of Hadley.
No, any ADU would have to meet building code.
Yes.
How about a pre-constructed, these that they bring in, you put it on a slab, what do you call it? Prefabricated, pre-constructed home?
Modular?
Modular homes are permitted right now in town. We don't define trailers in that sense. Some towns don't even allow you to bring in modular homes.
Yeah.
Probably hasn't gone to that extreme.
Oh, but somebody could just, drive it in, drop it off on a slab and, okay, that's allowed.
But if it's got permanent connections to it, and it's a permanent structure on a slab, that's a permanent home. Whereas a trailer is movable.
And it still has to abide by building code too, correct?
Yeah, which would require a frost foundation instead of just a slab on grade.
It's gotta comply with building code.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've beaten that one up pretty good. For the time being. Let's see, the fall town meeting, now that we have a 5-member board, I would propose we consider eliminating the 75,000 square foot limit in the business zone and allow any size building that can be built for the parcel. I doubt we're gonna see big box stores coming in. I wouldn't say never, but it would be more on the idea of, an office building, something like that. I'm not sure what else could be included. But the original 75,000 square foot footprint was by petition. And at the time, there was a lot of fear of, bigger Walmart coming in, bigger big box store. Bottom line is, I don't think big box stores are necessarily being built anymore. I would never say never, but it's seeing that Hadley would welcome some good tax revenue if we could get a bigger building in, maybe something we want to consider.
Two things. One, would you want to do that in the industrial district as well?
Yes.
Okay. And second, I spent some time looking through the bylaw because Kayla had a question, and I think I copied you on that, Jim. With all the revisions the bylaw has gone through, the only reference to the 75,000 square feet that I found was in the one of the notes to the table of uses.
Correct.
And that seemed to imply you could exceed 25,000 if you purchased development rights.
Yeah, I saw that too. And that was not the original wording, but if that's what it says, I think we should just get rid of the 75,000 square foot. That's my personal opinion. We can talk about it and just get rid of even in a note so that if it's bigger than 75,000, it would be, I don't call it by right, but as long as the parcel could sustain it, then let them build it.
Do we have any room for something that big?
Well, that's another good question. The only
Well-
thing I could see is that if one of the existing parcels wanted to expand,
Or
It's going to be adaptive reuse.
right? I mean, there's a few parcels that could probably sustain that, Joe, but there's very few.
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, has there been any inquiries or any like interest?
Only rumors. Nobody has come to us wanting to put
Okay,
in a big building. I've heard rumors about, well, this wants to come in, this would be interested, that'd be interested. But those comments that a dollar will buy you a cup of coffee, that's about it.
Yeah,
Jim, you mentioned 75,000 square feet. Bill, you mentioned 25,000 square feet. Are you both talking about the same thing or?
I think Bill meant to say 75.
I meant to say 75. That was
Okay.
the only place.
Okay. And that was in the uses table as a note. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't have to make a decision tonight, just something to think about. We can put that onto the fall town meeting if we so choose. We can talk about that at a future meeting.
Hmm.
so let's say, so would it be if the mall, let's say, for example, a structure that is of that size that was grandfathered in or bigger was demolished, they would be restricted with the new bylaw, correct? Meaning that they couldn't build the same thing.
Usually neither mall could expand 1 square foot.
Okay, but if they demoed and rebuilt, they couldn't build bigger than what they are currently either.
Right.
That is correct. If they had the available space on their parcel, they could do that. Well, let's say Hampshire Mall, because they do have some extra space. let's say they wanted to add on to the main part of the mall. They couldn't do that right now because they're already over 75,000. They could not make it any larger. But if we get rid of this requirement and if somebody wanted to, let's say the theater wanted to add another theater, they could add another theater to it.
Would this pertain only to businesses or how about apartment house potentially?
Apartments aren't permitted in the town of Hadley.
Well, they will be eventually.
That's a different topic, Joe. You're right. But because we don't permit them right now, it wouldn't apply because we don't allow them.
Okay,
So we'd have to take up if and when 40R goes through. And I'm assuming we could put something within a 40R bylaw limiting size, but I don't know that.
I think so.
It would be basically applicable to businesses and industrial. Okay, like I said, we can bring that up at a future meeting to discuss and review if we think whether we think it's a good idea or not. Let's see. Oh, anything on Mr. Dunn on 40R?
We had our second public forum, or I guess we had both since the last meeting, perhaps, because we had them on a Saturday and the next Thursday. So we had two public forums. I think the first one had maybe 7 or 8 guests. Second one had about twice that. There were good discussion. There was the second one, we had 3 stations and we got input, which is all being synthesized and put together by PVPC as we speak. And I don't remember Kishore, but are we expecting Kyle back at the next meeting or
Yes, so I
Yeah.
think our next meeting is,
should have both of them before Aiden steps out? I think we'll probably.
yeah, I think we're next scheduled for the 18th.
Yeah. And so that's all I really have to.
Okay, that's fine. So things are moving along.
Mhm.
Very good. I have nothing else. Mr. Dwyer, have anything?
I do not have anything else.
Anybody else have anything?
I
I
do
have
not.
one thing. So I'm meeting with the town treasurer tomorrow. They're working through all the department budgets and seeing if the departments have enough funding to make it through fiscal year 26 and make any cuts if there's any room to cut. My question is for planning services, are we expecting that the contract with PVPC will remain the same $10,000?
Yes.
Okay, so there's gonna be no increase. Okay, great. That's all I need to know.
What it
Thank
is,
you.
with the way they've been, just so for your information, Kayla, when we kept 7,500 for a number of years. And what happened was they were giving us basically less hours for the same amount of money. So if we keep it at 10,000, we would simply get less hours of PVPC. When we went to 10,000 from 7,500, we got more services. So the money is okay. We would just get a little bit less work out of them for that price.
Because they have to pay
Gotcha.
their hourly rates increasing with inflation, right?
So I mean, every few years, we'll probably ask for some more money in a few years. However, being that budgets are so tight in the town, I don't think we're gonna be asking for more money from PVPC for at least a year or so.
Makes sense. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. So we had the same question. We've got the same budget. How are you guys dealing with it? He said, we're just giving you less hours. Oh, okay. That's a simple answer.
And we've been doing the 7,500 for years, haven't we?
Yes, I bet we had 7,500 for what, Bill, 10 years anyway.
Yeah,
And so the $2,500 jump was kind of a catch up. And so from there on, we might be like a 5 or 10% increase instead of that 33% increase.
I mean, you're right. And as opposed to getting a bigger jump every year, we're not asking for a lot of money. $2,500 is a tiny amount. I mean, our whole budget is probably 25,000 or whatever it is. It's not. We're not a big budget item.
and
So
our usage also varies from year to year. So I think most years we probably turn some money back.
Yeah.
Other years it's much tighter. And this year, for example, it might have been really tight if that grant from had not come through for 40R.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The one thing
which-
that the one thing we routinely overrun every year is our advertising budget, because they've only given us like, I don't know, $1,000 or something, and that's basically 2 ads in the Gazette. However, because the applicant pays that money back to us for every legal notice we get, plus the cost of postage, the money, they simply get a transfer from free cash or wherever it comes from. So although it looks like we're running a deficit, we are actually reimbursing all advertising to the town plus a little bit.
It's
So,
almost like a
we're not-
revolving account.
We're not costing the town any money. And they said the way we are running it, it's a lot easier than trying to get a revolving fund.
Mm.
So they're good with it.
So when there's like a zoning amendment and it's posted in the newspaper, that comes out of the budget though, right? The legal notice budget?
Yes,
That
no,
com-
the
that
last,
comes out of the
Council
town
call.
clerk's budget. Well,
the last legal notice we posted, because it was a request by a certain people, they have been paying for it. I have been sending the attorney Reedy the legal costs, and they have been paying it directly. So that worked out very well.
That's not typical, right? It's usually,
Correct,
It
yeah.
comes from-
When the planning board proposed a zoning change, we pay for it out of our budget.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, if we
But-
do 40R,
Pardon?
if we do a 40R, that would be our,
Correct. Yes, that would be out of our budget. Like we're proposing, we say we propose to get rid of the 75,000 square foot requirement at the fall town meeting, that would come out of the planning board budget.
While we're talking about budgeting, I just wanted to tell Kishore that he probably should not plan on our pension plan that we're getting through the state when we get paid. After 50 years, I got a notice from the state. My pension plan is accumulated to $431.
Jeez,
So
big bucks.
a lot of scratch tickets.
I do have one more thing, not for discussion, but just we did get a comment from the Historical Commission saying they wish they had more advanced notice of the proposed changes to the senior housing overlay. And I will forward that around. I'll put it on a future agenda. So we can look at what their concerns were and see discuss how we want to deal with it.
are they going to become active again, or do you think? Or
I don't know. That's something we can talk about and ask them if that's what they want.
is that the commission or the society?
Commission.
Because the society is a kind of a private organization, Mark.
Yeah.
Just for everybody's information, the planning board used to use the historical commission to review the architectural appearances of applicants that were applying within the village overlay district. And we had used them for years for that purpose. They would give us comments. Sometimes the applicant would meet with them. They would argue and negotiate, well, could you do this kind of a clapboard siding versus that kind, et cetera, and it worked out pretty good. And so a couple of years ago, I think it was even before COVID or during COVID, the Historical Commission said that they no longer wish to review the applications that were coming in for site plan approval. So we simply took them off the list.
Yep. It was actually, I think it was much longer than COVID. I'm thinking maybe 10 to even 15 years now. The project proponents were coming in and complaining that they couldn't get a meeting set up with the Historical Commission.
Okay.
Or the meeting would be set up and they wouldn't have a quorum. So it just became unwieldy.
Yeah.
And then they flat out said to us, we don't really want to be doing this anymore. So if they're changing, we can have that discussion.
Maybe they need to raise their stipend.
So anyways, anything else? You're
Uh,
happy?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second,
Motion and second, all in favor, roll call,
done, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Exelowski, aye.
Farmar, aye.
Roddick, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Everyone, thank you very much. Thank you, Hadley Media. Thank you, Kayla. Good night, everybody.